My name is Rebecca Jeannie Manning. I'm more known by Jeannie because that's what my siblings called me all the time, as did my parents. I was born and raised in Cape Dorset in Nunavut, in Inuktitut, Kingite, meaning lots of hills. And my father worked for the Hudson's Bay Company at the time when I was born. So I was born and raised in a house that my father built, and that was around the Hudson's Bay Company. I was exposed to a lot of white people, and although I couldn't speak English, I could understand a little bit. So Inuktitut is really the main language of the community where I'm from, and it's also the main language of all Nunavut communities. I knew how to read and write in Inuktitut before I went into kindergarten, and God gave me a gift for languages. He gave me the ability to pick up reading and writing, because I picked it up better than my siblings. I have two other siblings that are really good at it too, but a lot of my peers didn't quite pick up the syllabics. I mean, their language was perfect. They spoke Inuktitut fluently because it's their mother tongue. But it's the reading part and the writing part that was a challenge to a lot of other Inuit besides myself. My people are Inuit people, and I'm honored to be called an Inuk. Inuktitut is part of who we are, where we're from. It's our mother tongue. Unfortunately, there are some communities in the Central Arctic where some people have lost their Inuktitut because it was literally beaten out of them every time they spoke it. So they had to master the English language to the best of their ability. And to this day, they speak only very little of Inuktitut, mainly, maybe yes or no. Children who were taken from their homes, some did not even make it back home. And those who did try and get away did not make it either back to their residential school or to their communities. And those are the wounds that people still need to heal from. I think I was one of the fortunate ones because I did not go to a Catholic residential school. I did go to a residential school. I went to the one in Iqaluit, but it was run by the government, the federal government. To my knowledge, I myself was not sexually abused. I had a little spank here and there, maybe for misbehaving, but that's about it. But still, the separation from my family affected me in my life. Because I was never really able to settle down anywhere afterwards. I lost connection with my family and still feel a little estranged from my own family, from my own siblings. That when I do see them, they're like strangers to me. Although they are not strangers, I know them, I grew up with them, but they're kind of like if we're sitting in the same room and they're talking, I feel like I'm always the odd one out because I was away from home a lot. I felt humbled to have been approached or to have been asked to interpret at this event. And at first I thought maybe I really didn't qualify because I didn't go to a Catholic school. But my colleague said, it doesn't matter which school you went to, it's your language that needs to be heard, that they want to hear and to use for people to listen to what the Pope has to say. So I felt honored, not because it was the Pope, but because I was representing the very people that had been harmed, that had been wronged. To be able to convey the words spoken and have them understood by my people was something that really touched me inside. And it's because a lot of people, if they don't get an apology from religious people who have harmed them in the past, they would have continued to hurt. They, you know, even hearing the words, "I'm sorry," is like it begins to heal a wound. And the apology was a long time in coming. It was overdue, long overdue, because so many people have suffered from the ramifications of residential schools, from the abuse they suffered in Catholic schools. I was affected emotionally by seeing the pain of a lot of people who had gone through residential schools and who had lost their children and or their loved ones to residential schools. It affected me because I'm a family person, and to lose family is painful, especially if it's not expected, you know? Like, I had a sister who was sick and she was at the hospital on her deathbed. That's expected death. But when you hear of tragic losses, it not only affects the heart, it affects the soul and the lives of people who suffered those losses. So yes, I did feel the emotions, and I felt for the people who had suffered the loss of their children and their loved ones to residential schools. The most memorable moment was when that beautiful Cree woman stood up in front of a crowd and sang "O Canada" in Cree language. And it was powerful because there was a lot of emotion and anger and a cry for justice, all bound in one voice. And I just thank her for her bravery to do that. I work with Isaroit, which means wings, but it was strictly set up, well, mainly set up, not strictly, but mainly set up for women who sew. The women, Inuit women who like to sew or do crafts, wanted to get together so they can socialize and keep the language alive and to keep their culture alive by creations. But it expanded to Isaroit Inuit arts, where it was not only women anymore, there was also men who are bringing their skills, tool-making skills, into this organization that's keeping our culture alive here in Canada, here in the South, where you see a lot of the tools like in ulu or a naulak, which is a spear, up in the north. You don't see them down here because they don't get used down here. But to keep our culture and heritage alive, we need to keep our history alive. And that's how we do it, is by making the very tools that were keys to survival of the Inuit, like the hulep, the lamp, That was one of the key tools of survival for Inuit. I would like to see it maintained amongst the Inuit, to see it revitalized where it's been lost. Like much of the First Nations people are revitalizing their languages. I would like to see other people who are interested in learning our language approach us and tell us, we would like to learn Inuktitut. Is there any way? If we're going to teach Inuktitut, we need to form a school here or set up classes or programs where Inuktitut can be taught. But it would only be open. It should only be open to people interested. We're not going to force people to learn our language. We've already been through that. And probably it will bring about more reconciliation, because a lot of the people I know here who are somewhat older than I am, they're still shy to speak out. And the younger ones, their lips are zipped. So it would be like really good if the Inuit and non-Inuit can interact socially or in a classroom setting and learn Inuktitut if they wish. Atito Inuit tamata inuluta tamata kayo siyato inahata tasibo mo paleangin nakta tatakakata takunang itatinigotiming. I just said, for those of us Inuit, let us not be hindered by the mountains that are before us. Let us continue in faith and just never give up.